This is the second comment I got about someone saying specifically said. And specifically said would mean that you had a contact with an energy. And also in this last video, if you click on it, I talk about broadcasting. So I'm broadcasting while I'm talking, like something else that's constant, and it has to do with my energy, has to do with all these things. And it's not a conscious thing. You can consciously tune into it, but it's not conscious, and that's one of the things I help with, is working on what you're broadcasting, kind of. And obviously when I say broadcasting, I mean it in this scenario for specifically this, but you don't even have to say broadcasting. It's like your overall, like people when they're first getting into spirituality, they say aura. It's like that, but obviously it's way more than that, because you're not just like this little human thing, like you're all these things at once. So it's like your story, it's your field, all those things, unique to you. And so that's not just for a human, that's also for anything, like this necklace, this crystal necklace, for bigger energies, which are collectives. They are not just one, being. They're many beings in one. And so in the analogy I gave in that video, that's why I talked about this, is the way, if someone says specifically and they say this kind of thinking, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. That's the thing that people always say. This is why everybody's freaked out and stuff like that. Another thing that they're thinking about is they don't realize that there's so many countries that have nothing to do with what this is talking about. And people keep forgetting that it is very American focused in this situation. And I know people would say, okay, well, they're talking about Japan and things like that, but who was involved in that, right? It was the West doing that. So it's like all these other countries have no idea about this. There's a lot of people, even on my lives, that come on, and I have to explain the seven thing over and over again to people, because it's not everybody knows about this. It's very niche. And I know it's a very important, that kind of thing. But this is what happens, is when we make contact, which we do all the time, we're channeling all the time, we're talking to big energies all the time, we're talking to energies that are ours, some are just like related to ours, all the time. But the difference is that when you focus on it. So what Cassie did was she focused on a Ouija board. When someone prays and they have a profound experience and an energy comes to talk to them, that is when you're focusing on it. There's like all kinds of things that go on, and I help with these kind of things, so you can do it, you're on your own. But these random moments that we think are random, it's because you ended up corralling, like I said with the little butterflies, a piece of that energy. So the way that you communicate with that energy is going to be unique to you. I was talking about this on the live last night, that sometimes when someone doesn't have the library, which means they haven't thought for themselves, they haven't decided, okay, so what does this mean to me? What does this mean to me? What does this mean to me? When I see this sign, or when something comes into my, my life, what does that mean to me? And when someone doesn't do that, they have an empty library, right? That's their own library of what things mean to them, not what other people and education has told, right? So that is like your own thing of what you think, right? And then there's the people who, the people who are like, or energies that are able to do that or have their library or whatever. When they connect with that other person, that person, by the way, I was explaining this on the live because of sometimes when people hear my content or they see it, they, like, for example, they don't listen to the whole thing, or they can't listen to the whole thing because there's only some parts that are in common. So like I said, there's two in common parts. So there's the in common where there's a library that has all the, common words, and, we speak the same language. I grew up in the US, so I might say some things that feel cozy to someone who's in the US, that kind of stuff, or the West even. And we're going to share those things. So those are the things people will listen to. So in this case, you're probably listening to when I talk about seven. You're looking for the things that make sense, right? Because that's what our brain does. Our brain searches for what makes sense. And if you don't have your library of what you think of these things, you didn't think on your own about that and be like, when you hear me or when you hear Cassie, you don't go, what do I think about this? Like, what does this bring up in my life? Then you're only going to go to this library. Now, another library that happens that is in common is our energy, soul, field library, things in common. And so when you're drawn to my videos on accident or because of Cassie or because of whatever, it could be an energy thing as well, not just this. So the way that you feel about stuff, the way you think, not think, but the way that you connect with it, or something feels like in common or whatever, but you don't know why, it won't be this shared one, it will be that one. And so sometimes people are a mix of these two and they bounce in between these two, but they're a bit confused. And so the reason why I'm talking about this is not just for this comment, but also for what Cassie went through. So I've seen all of the stuff. I'm very up to date because I'm very involved in this. I don't know why. She probably doesn't even care I exist. But I'm very involved in it in the sense that I can see this is what I do anyway when I help people. But I can see that she's also bouncing in between these two when she was doing the stuff with Seven on the Ouija board and when she's talking to people, the way she's meeting people. And her library of how she thinks of things is based on what's out there. So like, for example, anything having to do with this stuff, like nukes and these historical things and dates and what to look up, we think, oh, well, of course it's that. But it's not. She chose to change those things, like translate those numbers into that. And by the way, these conversations, you know what they came from? Like I said, I've already read them. I was there all the time she was showing them. And some people, if you look at, I have like saved folder of all the 7 responses or whatever. You can have a look at those if you're interested. But it's almost like, when someone is being interrogated and they're leading the witness, it's that kind of vibe. So it's not a bad thing. It is a personal thing. It's a conversation. So like, for example, if someone is in a situation and they had a conversation and they share it on TikTok, not this, but just something else, and people start getting heated with what that is, they need to know that there's obviously more to the story. We don't know the story of the other person. We only know that person sharing the story. So this is the same with this. And so that's what I'm trying to help people with, is so that they can think for themselves for this. Like, how are you a part of this? How can you be a part of this? That kind of stuff. And then on top of that, what is her, like, what her intention is, what she's doing, and then also what that bigger energy could be doing. And I'm using this as a example for people to empower people. So all of this stuff like this, I'm like, it's not important to me because that doesn't empower people. That's not why I'm like doing this. I'm not just doing this because I'm, someone who's interested in blah, blah, blah. I'm doing this because that is like why I'm here as a human being, is to empower people, because people don't know that they can be empowered. Like, they just don't know. Like, they keep thinking they have to look at all these external shared library things instead of being like, okay, well, what does this mean to me? Why am I interested in this? Why am I drawn to Cassie? Why am I drawn to something that has end of the world vibes? What is this feeling? Explore it. But no one's taking that opportunity. I think there's only one person I saw on Reddit that was doing that. And then they recently did a post that was like, I don't know, I felt like they went back into this where they're like, because of peer pressure. Because everyone's like, okay, well, this, and this. There is one thing that I haven't mentioned because I was just in the Reddit community, but I remember Cassie saying, why me? Why did they come to us? And then people were being mean and saying, yeah, like, what it, blah, blah, blah. It's not about coming to them. It's everywhere. It's broadcasted everywhere. You could get the broadcast. You don't have to go on a Ouija board. You don't have to do anything. You can get the broadcast. It doesn't have to be from Seven. There's a lot of energies talking about the same thing. Seven is. It's not just Seven. There's a lot like of energy saying it's time to start making it about you, basically, and learning how you can do things.